One. Okay, so yes, so thank you all for being here. We're just going to be waiting just a little bit as a couple of people continue joining. Um, but today, we are welcoming you to our financial literacy on understanding interest rates. We have partnered with GenXL, and I want to go ahead and, you know, get started and introduce Laura Gonzalez, who's going to be leading this presentation on understanding interest rates. But before we get started on the actual presentation, and we have, Laura Gonzalez introduce herself, I'm just going to go ahead and go through the first part of this, which is a couple of important Zoom reminders. So this event will be recorded, and then we'll be sharing this afterwards. You or participants will be muted for a majority of the event. And then we're going to have a Q&A session at the end. So go ahead and, any questions that you may have throughout this, you can go ahead and pop them in the chat. Just remember them so we can go ahead and ask them during that Q&A session. And if you have any issues with Zoom, you can go ahead and send me a private message. I'm sorry, the slide says Marvin, but you can go ahead and send me a private message and I'll go ahead and help you resolve that. So again, we're going to go ahead and start by introducing Laura Gonzalez. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Hello, everyone. Some students have already told me that they registered, but they cannot come. So they are just going to follow this workshop through the recording. Remember that after the session, if you have registered and you have not been able to attend and you have any questions, you can email me directly. You have my email address on screen. So a little bit about me. I'm originally from Spain. I have been living about half my life in Spain and half my life here in the United States. When I came to the United States, I didn't know anything about finance because I studied other things. As an undergraduate student, I did music education, I did engineering, and then when I came to the US and I discovered finance, I also realized that the financial system offers a lot of options that I was not aware of, and that I should really be at least mildly knowledgeable of. In Spain, and it's the same in many other places, and it used to be the case also in the United States, people rely on pensions and social security. And that's not the way to be ready for retirement. Mean that we need to follow the news or be constantly checking how the stock market is doing. We can plan for retirement in a safe manner without having to devote ourselves to understanding finance or following companies one by one, without doing company analysis. The basics are very simple. Even those that do not like mathematics should not worry. And anyone can understand the basics, and everyone needs to understand the basics because this is a survival tool. We all need to prepare for retirement. We all need to buy a house. And the basics are as simple as learning how to read and write. So what we have here in the university is a lot of assistance with, I'm trying to organize the images. We have a lot of assistance with financial literacy. There is a program, we are going to introduce it afterwards, that, okay, I'm just trying to see the slide. Oh, now I see it. Okay, we have a program online called Financial Literacy 101 that is free of cost for all the students, and you have access to it for life. So even after graduation, when you lose your email address, you do not lose your Financial Literacy 101 account with the university. So open it now, and then remember to have your personal email address as contact so that you keep it for the rest of your life. It is very complete, it is basic, and it is a source of information that you can trust because they are not trying to sell you anything. And it doesn't change. The basics don't change depending on whether a company is up or down a particular day. It basically explains different topics that we should keep in mind and the basic ideas. What are the different options that we have when we invest? Now, to break the ice and to cover other topics, especially as new research is available, we have these monthly financial literacy workshops. So in our previous workshop, we talked mostly about budgeting. Budgeting is always important. We always need to have a plan. Same thing if we are trying to get into shape or we want to lose weight. We always need to know what we are doing. What are our sources of income? What are our expenses? And just checking the balance and the charges in credit cards is not enough because we have charges that go straight to the bank account, then expenses that we pay with cash. So it is important to have a comprehensive understanding of where our money is going so that the objective is really to minimize the number of work hours so that we can maximize the number of study hours and also time to engage, right? The objective is not just to get a degree. We want to grow professionally, to explore different career paths, to make friends, to network with professionals. And so we need time to prepare and do well in the classes. That's the secret to scholarships, intensives, and full-time jobs. And we also need time to socialize and also to get engaged in professional student organizations. So that's what we mostly emphasized in September, that we need to have a comprehensive idea of what our budget is so that we can do well in the midterms, in the finals, especially those of you who are transitioning into the university. We have an additional challenge this year, which is the inflation. Because of the higher cost of the basics, we have to be especially mindful of our expenses. So let's go back. Let's go back a couple of slides. Okay. All right. So where was I? Okay. So financial literacy is a survival tool, and most people do not even understand the basics because they think that you need advanced mathematics, or that is just boring, something that we can push aside, and that we are on time thinking about retirement starting in our 40s. It is actually very easy and cheap to prepare for our retirement, comfortable retirement, starting in our 20s. So we should not postpone financial literacy beyond succeeding in the university with the courses and getting the most out of it. All the sources of support and that we have academically for professional development, personal growth. We also need to plan, start planning our future. So I don't know if you are aware, before I continue with financial literacy, that we have a basic needs program in the university. So this basic needs program includes the beach pantry. The beach pantry is in the student union building. And over there, you can get the basics. And also once a week, they get veggies and fruits from community gardens, and it's free of cost. So there is no need for you to spend a lot of money that is needed for other things to buy expensive groceries. You can go to the beach pantry in the university. It is open every day that you come to school for classes. So check it out. Now, what happens with credit card debt? Well, especially now at the time of inflation, credit card debt is increasing. As we were locked up during pandemic, the national level levels of credit card debt decreased, but now they are up again. And with inflation, they are reaching worrisome amounts, limits. Students should maximize financial aid and scholarships. And the number one reason why students do not get scholarships is because they do not apply for them. Besides college scholarships, there are university-wide scholarships, and not all of them require GPA. Okay. And then, we know that many students have entrepreneurial plans that sometimes get postponed if there is too much debt, and family responsibilities that need to be attended to even while they are students. Let's go now to the next slide. Okay, so what are interest rates? This is very important. Interest rate is the amount that we are charged when we borrowed, right? On top of we have borrowed. So if I need $100 and I don't have them today, and I borrow them from a friend, maybe that friend will not charge me interest rate, and so I just need to return at some point the $100, right? I make an agreement. Okay, next week I give you the $100. But if we borrow greater amounts and we return them over a longer period of time, and from people that do not know us and do not trust us, and that's their business, that's the way they make a living, they are going to charge us extra. So how much extra? Well, it depends. The more we borrow, the longer it takes to repay the amount. The worse our credit history, the higher the interest rate that we are going to be charged. Always remember that in the news, when we hear where the interest rates are, that's between banks. We are always going to pay at least 3% more than what the banks pay. Okay, so it is always in our best interest to be a low risk customer, because low risk customers pay lower interest rates on credit cards and on mortgages, right? Or any kind of loan that you get from a bank. And so how can we be a low risk customer? Well, if we repay faster, a smaller amount, and we have better credit history, then we pay less. So how can we have a better credit history? Well, it is important to repay our credit card debt in full, never to default, and to go beyond the minimum payment to pay it in full. Because if the only thing we are paying in the credit cards is the minimum amount, we are borrowing the rest from the credit cards, and the interest rates are very high. Okay, so we should have it as a goal not to increase our debt on credit cards, because interest rates are even higher than when we borrow from banks. All right, let's go to the next slide. Now, the opposite is true for interest rates. If we have savings, if instead of borrowing we have savings, and we deposit savings in a bank, the bank is going to pay us some interest rate. Now, what happens is that if we deposit our savings in a bank, the interest rate that we get paid is much lower than the interest rate that we get charged if we borrow from the same bank. Okay, so let's assume, for example, that we borrow from the bank $300,000 to buy a house, right? We have some savings for down payment, and then we borrow $300,000. So let's suppose that they are charging us 4%, which is, not what we are going to be charged in the current environment. So we would be paying back to the bank not just the 300,000, but $12,000 more in interest. Okay, so again, how can we reduce the interest that we pay? Borrowing less, repaying our mortgage faster. So if we buy a home that is more manageable, that is not so expensive, maybe we can repay the loan, the mortgage, within 15 years instead of 30. So we are less risky because banks feel more comfortable with a mortgage that is going to be repaid in 15 years. Less things are out of control, right? And so they will charge us a lower interest rate. And again, it also depends on us individually, what our credit history is. So it is important to graduate so that we can present higher income, right? Higher salary, and a good record as students, and also as credit card users, right? Not living above our means and paying in full our credit cards every month. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so what happens with compounding interest is that if we borrow for a long period of time, what we end up paying is higher than the simple calculation that we have seen before. We end up getting into exponentials. Now, this can protect us, the compound interest and compound exponential growth can actually help us when instead of borrowing, we are investing. So if we have some savings and we invest the savings in the market, in the financial markets, especially in the stock market, and we go for an index. So those are the index funds charge us very low interest rates, is very low management fees. Then we are going to grow over time, and the growth will be greater if we start earlier. Okay, so that's why it is important to become familiar when we apply for jobs with whether the employer is matching contributions towards retirement plans, for example, because that's free money. And again, if we invest starting in our 20s in index funds, since the management fees are minimum, we are set for retirement. And we can do this with our phones. Our employer will have a portal for us and different options, and then we can manage our retirement funds through the phone. How often should we check how well it is growing? Well, no need to do it every month. Twice a year is good, because in index funds, we are diversifying risk. We have exposure to the different sectors that are driving the economy. And again, we are minimizing the management fees. Let's go to the next slide. So again, when we are thinking of interest rates, right, it is not always bad news. If we borrow, yes, but if we are investing, if we are saving and investing, then that's good news, right? It means that our money grows faster. Okay, so there is a code for Financial Literacy 101. I can give you a link to a page that has the code on a screen. Let me give you the link. Okay. Okay, I go to the chat for everyone. Okay, maybe the panelists can make it available to everyone, because I only see the option of the panelists. So let's make it available to everyone. Okay, but basically there is a web page in the university. Maybe the panelists can show it, that has the link and the code. It is CSULB all. Okay, CSULB, the dash and then all. Okay. So can the panelists, Valeria, can you help us make this available?
Actually, I think we're gonna have to just have them drop questions in the chat for now, unfortunately.
Okay, I cannot see all attendees. I can only post in the chat for the host and panelists. And I would like to make the link available for everyone.
Yes, I'll go ahead and post it in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So please take the time today, maybe during this workshop, to open this free account with the University for Life on Financial Literacy 101. It's basically like a library in which you have the introduction to the basics in relation to different topics that we all need to know about. How to plan for a home, for retirement, to start a business, and to budget now as students, right? And we can do it in different ways. We can use an Excel or we can do it in paper and pencil. Do we now have questions from the audience?
There was one question. Jessica is asking, is there a code we need to register? Can you clarify that?
Yes, it is in that web page that Valeria has just posted on the chat. So if you go to that web, to that site, you can see the code and the link to register. Everything is there. Yes, Valeria has just posted it again. Okay, one thing that I'm going to mention while we wait for more questions from the audience is that it's very easy now to make investments using phones. And these apps are very easy to use. Now, be aware of the sometimes advice that you can get even from famous people, right? That say, you know, I'm buying this cryptocurrency, etc. Really, investments is not an amusement park. It can feel a little bit like Vegas. It can be a little bit of gambling, but that's not the way to invest savings when you are a student and then to prepare for retirement after you graduate. Okay, so a sensible, safe retirement takes time. The contributions don't have to be large, but they have to be continuous, small amounts every month, and they need to be invested safely. And so index funds provide option, safe investments. Any questions, anybody? We will talk more about behavioral finance in November. Also, when you are investing, you basically have two options, right? One is to buy bonds, right? It is called bonds, fixed income, debt, right? The other option is to become co-owner of a company, right? When we buy bonds, we are lending to companies, and so they are going to, of course, return the amount with interest. But if we become co-owners in a company, we can make more money. We can, of course, lose everything that we have invested. But if we do it safely through an index, we are not going to lose. Okay, we will just go with the ups and downs on the market, but in the long run, we are going to be okay with exposure to gains in the different sectors, right? So pharmaceuticals, construction, energy companies, technology companies. And over time, we are going to be okay, and we are partial owners of all those companies. In that case, we do not get repaid when we invest in stocks, in shares. as co-owners, we do not get repaid with interest. It's just that the value of we have bought is like investing in a pizza, right? Increases when the pizza grows, our slice grows. Any other questions? Anybody else? Seems that we do not have any more questions. So maybe we will leave it here today. And what we will do for November is to prepare a longer presentation. Maybe we can discuss that.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Laura Gonzalez, for presenting today on interest. And thank you to all our participants for attending today. We'll be hosting another one on November
Yes, it's the first Tuesday of November,
first
which
Tuesday.
is November the 1st at noon.
Mhm.
And since many students cannot attend in person but watch the recording, we will have a longer presentation.
Yes, and that one will be on how to invest safely. All right, thank you everybody for attending. Hopefully we'll see you at the next one.
All right, take care. Bye.